Boom, back in the room. Right, another lockdown workshop. Workshop's relatively tidy. There's lots of sawdust over the place. Cup of tea. Can't do anything without a cup of tea. We've already done some shooting this morning. We had a bike come in. Well, it wasn't a bike, it was just a wheel. It was possibly the most badly buckled wheel I've ever seen, so keep an eye out for the video for that one. It looked like a bloody clown's wheel. Regular suspect. I've probably straightened more of his wheels than I've straightened all the other people's added together. But we've managed to do it anyway, so that's jobs parked, gone, wheels already gone back up, so I can take it in, just wandering up and down the workshop. Remembrance Sunday, it's a bit foggy out there. It's a Thursday, it's the 13th of November. Very unseasonably warm. I should have been out on the bike this morning, but as I said, I was getting nagged to get that wheel done, and as I mentioned on the other video, it was the cycling sections Christmas night out last night, and I've got an absolutely banging headache, even though all I did was drink 0 alcohol last night. So I'm assuming I've got a hangover by association, because my wife was absolutely steaming. Right, so we'll crack on with these. I think we're on to part 5 of this now. I'm sure Norm Abram never managed to spin them out this long. So they've been setting up overnight, so we'll crack them out. And first job, I think, for these, I was going to sand them down, but actually that's not what I need to do next. Because I need to get them routed first. So we'll get the router out, though I am conscious that if we've got any... not too bad actually. If there was any steps that we were going to have to adjust out, that would have impacted on the routing depth when I do the router. So we'll crack the router out. We'll get them routed out, get them sanded down, and then pretty much they're done. They just need finishing. Then there's a board at the back there that I've got to cut to make the panels to go in here, and then that'll need prepping and painting. And then if we want to put wallpaper on it, you can just glue wallpaper to it. If she wants to do something else, then fine, I'll just do a base coat paint on it, and then it can be painted whatever. These are going to be finished in Danish oil, so they'll be rubbed with Danish oil rather than paintbrushed, and then sanded and then oiled and sanded and oiled a couple of times, and you can get a really good finish on that. It's an alternative to using shellac, and I do like the finish that you get with that Danish oil on there. So we'll get them cracked open, get them on there. So I'm going to have to dig out the router and decide which one I want to use, and a lot of that depends on how I'm going to do it, because I need to put a 1/4 inch recess, a 1/4 inch deep into these frames all the way round. Maybe a bit over 1/4, because that plywood I think is 1/4, so I've got to check the thickness of the plywood. Hardboard is 1/4, so I've got to check the thickness of that first, and then these are going to be slightly over, so it might be that we go a bit more than 1/4, maybe 3/8, and then that's halfway through the depth of the timber, I think. 3/4, yeah, 3/8, because the timber's 3/4. Of course it is. That's why you work in inches. It's 3/4. If you want a half 3/4, it's 3/8. You just stick another. You just double the bit underneath. So we'll crack that on. But because come on, get your head together. Stop just rabbling out. What we need to be able to do is run the router around. I can do this a couple of ways. I can either put something up against it and run it against that, which is one way of doing it, or I could maybe use a wheel underneath. I could use the router table, but if I use the router table, it involves putting marks on so I don't overcut into this piece down here. You won't see it as such, or no, you won't see it if I overcut, but I just don't want to. It just looks shit after we've spent all this time getting nice joints on it. So what I'll probably do is see if I've got a wheel. I think I've got a wheel. I've got a whole pile of bits that came with the routers. All the routers, various bits and bobs, are all stashed in here. So there is a wheel, as I thought there was. See, that bolts on underneath, and you can adjust that, and that runs along there. There might be some bits with a wheel on as well, so I need to check that out. So let's just move that out of the way, but we're going to need that, so we'll dig that out of the way. That's the bits, or some of the bits. What I'll try and show you is what I mean by some of them have got a wheel on. So there's a good example of one. So that's for cutting slots. It's got a wheel on. You run the wheel against the edge of the timber. It cuts a recessed slot. There's one there, but that's a flush finish. So you run it along. That's for running around a template to get a flush finish from a template. There's another flush finish one there that's a bit smaller. Try saying that when you've had a few. So it looks like that's the only one I've got with a wheel on it. And that's way bigger than I wanted, so that's no good. Like I said, it's looking like it's going to be that. I've just got to find out how that, if I can remember how that bolts on. The idea is it's adjustable. Now I think the way that works is there's a fence that's adjustable. Yes. So I think that bolts onto the bottom of something like that. That's not the fence. So that's the fence for the bigger router. But there should be a fence somewhere for the smaller router. If I can, it might already be on it. I can't see it in there. In this bottom bit, there's all sorts in here. That's the one. That's the one for the smaller router. That's what I'm looking for. Right. Yes. So that bolts onto there, if that makes sense. Right. That's underneath the router. You set that for your distance out, so that will run then on there. Right. And then you adjust that so that the router blade moves in and cuts in the depth you want. So I'll probably use something. I'm going to use a small one, so probably just something like that, something nice and small. We've got a couple to choose from, but anyway, basically all you do is you just set that so it will cut in 1/4 of an inch or whatever that we're going in. I think I'm going in 1/4 of an inch, and then whatever depth we're going at, whether it's 1/4 of an inch or whether it's 3/8. So that looks like a way forwards. So I probably don't need most of the stuff in here, but we'll keep it out just in case, because I can't remember. And there should be some screws and things for bolting them all up. They'll all be in here somewhere. There's all sorts in here. Yeah, that's all. I think they're all the little screws and things. These are for setting the router in the router table, actually. So there is all sorts in here. Right. I'll stick in the stand and we'll crack. Right. I found all sorts of stuff in there. We are always missing, and I say always, missing something. There should be. Nope. This used to have a bar that came with it. With a. Use this. So there was a bar that came with it, and if you see, there's a hole in there, and there's supposed to be a bar that goes through there, and that's like a lock. Instead of some of these have a locking button, and that's just to lock the spindle so you can get these out, and then you tend to find you've got to knock it in and then knock it out. But I suspect this has been in for so long, it's if you're going to hit it, you've got to be careful not to hit the blade. There you go. It just wants a bit of percussion to get it going. Not sure where that comes from. So let's have a quick look. Here we go. So I've got a box of cabinet makers ones as well, which I've also got rollers in. So there could possibly be that's another straight edge one. No, there's nothing in there that's gonna help me out any. Potentially I could use that to do the piece, but I think I've already identified a victim. If it fits, yep, we'll go with that. It looks okay. It's not. Just drop them. Right. So there's another spanner there. That's where one of the spanners is. That's something I use for. So I'll just chuck that back in there. There's all sorts floating around in these boxes because I think that belongs on here. That's the. Is that the dust cover? No, it's not off this one. That must be off the other one. There's all sorts in these drawers. I'm in the glory pit behind it. I think that belongs on here. That's a depth gauge. Piecing together all the missing bits now. What I will be missing is I'll be missing the bits that screw in there, because I guarantee that they've got walkabouts. So if they are anywhere, they will be in here. This is the junk, one of the many junk drawers. This is where all the bits for the grinder generally get tucked, but there's a couple of router bits in here as well. Probably should be in the bit underneath. I think this, right, no, that's the bit that goes on there, and then the other plastic bit clips in there. I don't actually know where I chucked it now. There. So I think that yeah, that's right, that clips in there, and then that sucks out any of the router bits, any of the breakout from it. Yeah, I'm struggling for a lot of things. No, it isn't. Don't break down. I'm not expensive, but you can guarantee I will never have someone I need. Is there anything in there? Shouldn't be in there. Let's say it's my line level, so that goes in the measuring drawer. I do remember I was looking for that before. Right. I think it's safe to say I can't find that in there. Back round here. Let's look what's in this. Hold on a second. I might have spoke too soon. Yay. Probably only need one, but I would be happier if I had two. Beggars can't be choosers. What have we got? Oops, sorry, just hoofed you. I'm not precious about mix and match on the size. I suspect that's probably the same size too. Is that the same as that one? I think that's the same as that one. He says, I'm not precious, he says as he swaps them over. Suspect that one. Oops. It's not very good, is it? Come on, Bosch. I thought you'd have fastened that in properly. Right, so we've got, we can put it in the right way up. So. Now, I think the way this works is this goes in here. Yeah, that's got a mark on it. And you set that to the piece of wood with it at 0 in theory. So we'll put the blade in, drop the blade down, run the blade up against the piece of wood, push that against the inner edge, and that gives us our 0, and then we can move it across. Except we're not going to be using the plank, we're going to be using this instead. So we've just got to find something to bolt that onto there, because I think that's how it goes. So that's going to have to come out quite a long way actually. Yeah, because we've still got a wheel to put on there yet as well. Whatever that's gone. Thankfully it's not that big. the bishop. And so it does look like you can get it quite low. That's we might be able to turn it over actually. That might be a better idea. Turn it over. Yes, that's a much better idea. So the only thing we are missing now is a way to fasten this onto the bottom of here. So I'll turn that around so you can see what I'm up to. Let's see what we've got. No, that's quite slack. That's probably about right. Yeah, we'll have one of them. And we'll have one of them. Yep. Jobs are good. So stick some washers on. There's everything in this kit. Trouble is I've got both kits mixed into one here. I've got the kit that came with the bigger. We're back. Sorry about that. We had a bit of a camera had a bit of a moment, which is unusual. That's the first time it's broken while it's been on the phone controlling it. So that's interesting. Right. So just think not sure what you missed, but this is where we are up to. We have got what's the 10mm? Why is the 10mm missing? The 10mm is missing. No, the 10mm is in the 9mm box. So why is the 9mm mix missing? Right. Get them nice and snugged up so they don't move. That's it. That's the 9. That's the 8. We've stolen the 7. That's the 6, so it's the 7 that's missing. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm circling around in a box behind you again. You can't see. Right, so we've got this in. What we need to do now is drop this down. Take that out of there. I don't know where we are with this. Is it cranked up or something? It's moving quite nicely. Usually these are probably seized up. I will put just a little dribble of WD-40 on them, just to try and make it easier. Right, so that needs to be able to go out, and then we run that along the edge in theory, and then so we'll set it so it's on 0, so that's running against the thing and that's touching the wood, and then all we need to do then is just move that back the desired distance, and it will take that into the wood. The only problem we've got is that these edges here are going to catch on the inner edge of the on the inner edge, so we're doing inside ones, so that's the only problem I can see with this setup. I didn't think about that, so I might have to have another think about how we do this, because that's not going to work, is it? I can't flip it over either. I suppose I could flip it over. The thing is, though, it's going to hit that if I flip it over. So you can flip these over, and then I could bolt this onto the other side, but then that's going to hit the edge of the platform anyway, so that's not going to work. I need to have I need to have another think about this. I wonder if there's something I could do with the. See, what I could do is I could run that up against the top edge, possibly. I mean, the other way of doing it is to put this on the outside edge, but then we've still got the same problem. I'm still going to hit that. That needs to hit the piece, and these are going to get in the way. So I don't think there's any way of doing this. Right, let me have another think about this. Right, it's almost as bad as that. Anyway, yeah, thank God, yeah. We've got an idea. So we'll just get these off without dropping them on the wood like I've just nearly done. Hold them back up again. So I can knock them down again. So the plan is to run this round the outside edge, which is also a bit of an issue because I can see that this is sitting higher than the piece of wood underneath, so we're going to have to sit it on top of something else. So we're going to lift it up, and we'll just have to run this round the outside. So I'm just checking that we can actually get this where we want it. So let me just. What is up with this? I'm going to say I've just slackened it off. So we'll lift it up. We'll set the fence. Now the only downside to doing it this way is that if I'm on the inside and I hit a snag and judder the blade, I'm on the inside. If I pull it, it's pulling the blade away from it. If I'm on this side and I'm pushing it round, I hit a snag, it's pulling the blade into it. So I'm eating into timber I shouldn't be cutting into. So that's the only snag, so I'm going to have to be really careful. Now what's going to make it more interesting is the fact that these are then also going to be sat up on blocks as well, which is going to make life even more interesting because I'm not going to be able to press down that hard on it, as hard as I would like, and potentially that this could move around. We also need to make sure that we are cutting on the right side as well. So that is the inside edge. So we'll just find another noggin from the standard. Fortunately, I've got loads of these from a project I did about 10 years ago that we haven't burned yet, because we did go through a phase of burning them. I had so many of them. I can't break that one. Take that one. So I made some units actually out of oak that thick for the bathroom upstairs. That might be thicker. No, it's not. Same size. So, or is it that's thinner? No. So why is it not playing? Right, so let's do it that way then. I'll have a slight warp in that. Right. So what was I saying? Yeah. So I need to get a scribe now, and again I can use one of the woodworking tools if I can remember where to put it. Right, so yes, I should have a... So what we're looking for is we're just going to recess this 1/4 inch. I hate this thing because it's so tight. Oh. Nope. Nearly. There you go, that's 1/4 inch. So let's shift that out of the way. So what we can do is we can use this to mark. Well, we are on the right side, aren't we? Yeah. So just marking out the 1/4 inch all the way around, so I know what I'm aiming for. I've got a decent mark on the wood. I'll just mark this one off. So we'll do one of these, and then I'll do all of them, and because you don't need to watch me do all 3 of them. And then hopefully the one you watch me do is the one that I do perfectly, not the one that I screw up, because I can guarantee I will screw up one of these. I don't think I've done a recessed pocket routing where I haven't ended up chewing up a bit of wood that I'm not supposed to. It's not ideal, but unfortunately it is what it is. So I think the best thing I can do with these is one of these sides at a time. So I've got to make sure that these blocks aren't anywhere near where I'm going to be routing. So I'm going to be running this up the edge of there. So once I've got this set up, it will stay set up, but I've got to get it set up. That didn't make sense. Just gibbering today. At least the headache's starting to subside. You've got to try and eye it in. Alright, so that's about 1/4 inch in. So we'll just lock them off now. And in theory, what I can do is I can just run that up there. Now what I've got to do as well is set the depth. So first thing I need to do is just go and check the measurement of the board that I'm going to be putting in. So we're back. Yeah, it is 1/4 inch. I was just checking. So what that means is that we have got to do 3/8. So that's 1/4 and 1/8. So again, our old friend from last time, the depth gauge. What we need to do is just wang this back. So it might be possible for me to. So it does have a depth gauge on it, but it's not a graduated one, so there's no measurement on there. generally what you do is you set it to where you are, which in this case isn't going to go any further than that, which is pretty much up against it. So we wind that back what looks like about 1/4 of an inch then, or 3/8 actually, and then this is my bump stop for emergencies, in case it gets knocked off, but it gives me a good indication of whether or not I need to make any more adjustments. So we've backed that off, probably a bit less than, so we need to back that off a bit more. So we eyeball it in until we think it's about 3/8 roughly, fasten it back up again, slacken off the one that adjusts this, which is that one, wind it down to there, and then what I'm going to do now as a final check is just put the depth gauge over it, and we can see that we are miles off. So that needs to go deeper. Because we're adjusting that, what you tend to go is you'll push it too far and then you have to pop it back because we've got a hard stop. Right, so that needs to go a little bit further out now. So because we're against that hard stop, I can just let that go. I can wind that in a bit. I can then pull that back down and see where we are, and then just make some fine adjustments. That, I think, is just about perfect. We'll just take it down a little bit more. And that should just catch now. Right, so there we go. Sorted. Right, so we've got the depth set, we've got the distance out set. So all I need to do now is just crack on and do it. Unfortunately, the light's not brilliant here, and I'm going to end up tying double up in my own cable, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. One word of caution then, I should have actually checked, because this does have a hard switch. You turn it on and turn it off. So, which didn't make any difference because I didn't turn it on at the switch anyway. So let's see if it works. Sounds like it's clonking along nicely. Now the problem is with this now is because I'm running on this one, I'm going to have to be really careful about how I plunge this in. So what you generally do is you will drop it on its edge like that, and so you feed it down into it. Just double check as well I'm on the right side, which given I've gouged great big holes in this already. Tell you what, so we don't screw up, I will stop the video and then I'll boom, back. Right, I only stopped it just in case the video packs out. interesting. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. It appears that the blades dived back inside the collet. I'm pretty sure I tightened it up. So let me get my proddler out again. Wherever that's gone. I have to set all this up again now. Must have had a bit of muck in it or something. Right, well, we'll do it the other way around. And no, you should turn this off before I get all the Facebook warriors on with me. But now ideally you do want these as close to the chuck as you can get them as well, because it does make life. It's less likely to get chatter. That's gone right inside now. It does feel like there's a ridge on it. So I wonder whether this has spun out before and it was just sat on a ridge of metal. Right. That feels like it is tight. I realised I'm trying to do this up round the hardest part of it. Right, so that's sorted. Let's check it's I just want to drop it down a little bit more. Nope. That'll do. Cooking on gas now. Right. Take two. Hopefully the blade stays where it's supposed to this time. So don't take it out until it stops spinning. Right. That is quite good. I'm relatively pleased with that, to be honest. So, yep, That's good. Right, so it's got to run along the front, run along the backs, and then we've done this one a little bit of a jiggle there. But the good thing about it is you don't see it on that side, you only see it on the inside. So all we've got to do now is just run round these other bits. So I will, as a precaution, move this down here so that we're pressing on something. Now the good thing about it is now I've actually got somewhere I can start it. Oops, I just left that hanging out. That's it, nothing on that side. So we can actually start it there. But strangely, it does look like it's, I'm going to have to adjust the cutter slightly. So let me just adjust that. For some reason it's not, I don't think that it's, oh I know why, it's because the blade's turned around. That was nearly a schoolboy error. So we're going to have the blade on its fattest bit. So we'll see how we go with that now. Need to make sure I don't. Ooh. Your battery's getting low. So that one's, I'm going to run that back again because that's got quite a bit of breakout because we were going the wrong way against the grain really. Yeah, that's much better. That's quite a decent finish out. I'm quite pleased with that. All in all. Right. So we've just got the same to do up this side and then across the top. It might be easy just to spin those around. So same thing again, just check that this is in the right place. It's okay. Good, that's nice. We will have to just chase out the corners. So I've just got one more side to do now, and then we can crack on with the others. See if you don't smack the handle with your hand as you're taking it off. That's taking a little bit out, but again, you don't see it, it's on the back. So, yeah, there's a bit of breakout on the grain on that one. Just a bit concerned about that, but nothing the sander can't take out. So, quite pleased with that. That'll drop in. I'm just going to make sure we're consistent now. We've got the same depth on all the other pieces, so we'll get the other ones done. And then we'll start sanding. You don't need to watch this, and your battery's flat. Boom! Right, all done. No dramas. Went quite well actually. Quite pleased with the finish on them because I've not looking forward to them. I mean, there's an argument I could have routed out these pieces. I could have marked that up. I could have routed them out before I assembled the joints. Would it have been easier? Possibly. I could have just zipped straight up them then. I could have used the roller gauge. But it's all together now anyway, so it doesn't matter. I think this is possibly the less risk one because when you do one piece of timber, it's quite hard to gauge it because you start falling off the edge and things like that. So it looks all right. All I've got to do is just nick these corners out. I thought I had a tool that you put into the corner and you hit it, and it's got like a chisel shaped thing that just takes those corners out. But I suspect I was dreaming that. I know Norm Abram had one, so maybe I'm confusing myself with Norm again. But all you need to do, just so you know, bring yourself over here. Where are we looking in the right place? It's just line it up there. Ideally, I'd have a better mallet than the one I've been using for knocking tent pegs in. Just line your chisel up. And then same with this side. Line your chisel up. And that takes the corners out. I know I'm cutting towards myself and I shouldn't do that. So all we're doing is just tidying those corners up so that they are a square. We'll need to run around with some of these with sander anyway, just to take the edges off. But so that's what I've got to do next. I've just got to knock all those edges off, and then we're into sanding. So I'll show you a bit of the sanding, but the sanding's fairly boring. And then it's a case of cutting the pieces of wood to put in. Get the final finish on these, get the final finish on them, and we're actually quite close. We're not far off videoing time, but elapsed time for me is quite a lot of time. But I'm cutting you out a lot of the repetitive stuff, so you're only getting to see one of them. Anyway, right, I'll just stop that while I knock these other corners back. Right, all the edges trimmed off. All I've got to do now is just sand these bits down and then see which bits I need to fix. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. We've got 2 lots of batteries on charge. We've got the Beast battery in there. This thing eats batteries like anything, but unfortunately that's the only sander I've got without using the belt sander. Don't want to bring the belt sander onto it. I might have to use it on this edge these top edges here just to flatten them off, but we'll see how we go. Got the dust extraction on because I really don't want to be breathing a load of oaking, to be honest. Just spotted something else that needs to go back in that box. So we'll crack on. I'll just show you a bit of this, and then I'll probably cut you off. This is going to get on my nerves, as it always does. See how we go with that. Right, wish me luck. It's actually quite therapeutic. I do think I need probably a bit of a coarser grain than that. Let's have a look at what we've got in here. Quick fit sanding discs. 240, 240. Oh dear, that's all we've got left. Running out of sanding discs. You won't believe how many years I've had all these sanding discs. You can see I've got tons of them up there. So we might end up getting the planer out. Let's see what. Oh, we've got some more in here. No, one type of sander, one type of sander, one type of sander, one type of sander, one type of sander. So that's all we've got. We'll have to order some more. Probably got enough. Yeah, they're a little bit fine, but we'll see how we go. If it's not cutting it, I'll get the belt sander on it. I'll get the first pass done, just to even everything up, and then I'll put this back on it. So we'll just give it a couple more minutes with these, and we'll see how we go. Not like that first time. Oh well. If I had one of them nice fancy machines like Norm's got, you just set the a table fed belt sander. It works like a planer thicknesser, but it's kind of a wider bed, and you just put something like this through, and it's just got a big drum of sandpaper. It just basically just skims it all off. Yeah, it's taken a while to get through this because it's such hard timber. I think it might be easy just to give it a quick pass over with the belt sander first, and then I can run any steps we've got on these end bits off as well using that. And then that'll be any. I was just about to say as well, any imperfections we've got in the joints where the joints aren't quite nipped up, we'll just run a little bit of PVA in there just before you're sanding, and the sand dust, the wood dust, basically fills in the gaps for you. But this is the back side, and this is coming up quite nicely. I can feel a few imperfections in the planing there where it's ducked under the blade, but other than that, it feels quite nice. So we're not a million miles away, but there's a few little steps and things where the joints aren't quite aligned. You know, it's thousandths out, but you can feel it when you run your hand over, and you probably be able to see it. So they're just little steps up, and there's these little top notches. So I'll just stop you while I get the back. Right, so I found some 100 grit. So we were using 240. So 100, 180, something like that probably would have been okay. There's only 3 pieces of this in here. It'll probably be fine. I'm not sure what's on this one, but it looks fairly coarse. So I'm not struggling for these, so I'll just bin that one off. This thing is absolutely had it. I mean, the bearings, you can hear the bearings. Yeah, you can hear that. That doesn't sound brilliant. So, and you have got to remember to get this on the right way around. So somewhere there should be a little arrow that tells me which way it spins. Oh, there we go. So that's spinning that way. So these have an arrow on that says order of travel. So that's spinning that way. So the belt's traveling that way. So the belt arrow, which if you have a look in here, is there. So that's traveling that way. So that needs to go on like that. And it does make a difference. It's to do with the join. Now, like I said, this thing is absolutely foobarred. Now, when I do these edges, what I might do is set it on its back and just pass them over it. We'll see how we go. We'll put this into this. I'm not sure if I can get a. I think I might have had one of these on it before. I think I managed to squeeze that on before. Yeah, there we go. Of course, I've been running this and I've not even bothered to turn it on. So that worked well. Right, let's see how we go with this. Right, that's worked really nicely actually. That's got those really nice and smooth. It's got the ends done nicely. So all we've got to do now is just run around the edges with the lighter weight stuff, and that's one ready to go. So while we've got that set up, I'll run the rest of them off, and then we'll run them off with the sander. So I think that's all you need to see with that. We'll get some block sandpaper in the edges around there, just tidy them up. Make sure the outer edges are nice and smooth as well. You have to be careful when using the electric sands on them, so I might use a hand sander on them. I've just got to be careful as well when I'm moving it around, because these edges are starting to get knocked. So we'll see how we go with that. But no, I'm really pleased with that one. First one done. Right. Have a look. That'll do. Right, so I've got a couple of little gaps here. I'm just not happy about this one there. There's a little bit down there. They're kind of just less than a millimetre. So what we're going to do is just going to get a little bit of glue, and you could use a paintbrush or a cocktail stick. I've just got a bit of tie wrap I found on the floor. And all you're going to do is we're just going to just run a little bit of glue down there. Right. I'll make sure it's in the cracks. It'd be nice if it was up to the surface as well, if you can get that. You might have to do a couple of applications of this. So the idea is you get the glue in, and then you sand it. Or if you want to, what you can do is actually put a little bit of glue in a lid of something, and mix in a bit of the sawdust that you've got out of your dust bag, and then that makes like kind of a paste, and you can do the same thing as this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of the old sanding discs on that I've already used, so I'm not that bothered because it will clog up the sanding disc. But like I said, I won't be that bothered. And do it at the end. Do it after you've done all your other sanding, and then you've just got to sand these bits down, and you're not going to be transferring gluey gloop around all your pieces. Put it all there. There's some on the other side, but they're non-facing sides, so I'm not that bothered about them. Like I said, I might have to do a couple of little passes of this. Actually, that disc's pretty much knackered now as well. So what we're going to do is just need to do a second pass on this one. That one's covered up beautifully. So just put a second pass on just the bits that it's not quite got into. Notice to turn the fan off as well, because I don't want it to draw the sawdust out. I want it to leave the sawdust on. It's still not filling up as much as I'd like. You just do need to be careful as well that you don't stick any of the gluey mush over the side. So one more pass at that. If that doesn't work, we'll mix up a little bit of thing. What you do with the paste is you put the paste in, and then you leave it, and then you sand it back. It sounds like the wife's home. I can hear her screaming at the youngest, who's obviously not got his stuff ready yet. See if I can help this along anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rub this in now. Instead of making the paste in the cap, I'm just going to rub this in. You can see it's balling up, and what I'm going to do is then try and push them balls down into the gaps. And then we're just going to leave that, let it set, and then sand it back. Once it's dried. I can have a go at it now, but it's more than likely I'll fetch it out again. So we'll just sand that back, and then we'll be done. That's pretty much it for the sanding. The other ones are over there. They look pretty good, so quite happy with them. Not sure where we are on time-wise. How are we doing? Says we've got 5 minutes left, so we'll probably actually call this one call it a wrap on this one, and then the next one we'll finish it and put the inserts in, and that's it, and make the hangers. Don't know if I can show you how they work. Hold on to that pen and paper I had. Look, I've got some pictures of them in here actually. No, that used a different one. I used a hook on that one. I didn't use the side hangers. No. Right. Pen. Can you see? Pay attention. So these are going to fit up flush. So we've got a wall there that these have got to sit out in front of, right? And they'll sit on there. Now what we'll have is, if you imagine that's the piece, and then that's the piece of timber, and that's actually a solid piece. So attached to the back of this face, I will have a block of wood, right? And that block of wood will sit through whatever the thing will be fastened to the back of that piece of timber, right? And and that block of wood is going to be that shape, right? Fastened to the back of this other piece, that the actual effectively this wall piece, is another block of timber. And that's going to be like that. What happens is you push these in, and then you let go of them, and they drop down, and that goes into that. And what it'll do is, because it's angled, it sucks it in and holds it there. And then when you want to get them out again, all you do is you just lift the bottom of that goes up, and then that piece there clears that piece there, and you can just lift them off. So you just push them in, let go of them, they drop down and hang. Now the beauty of this is that they can't fall out, because the weight of the door's pinning them in. But even if you've got a slight gap there, all you need to do is just push it, and they suck them in. So you can just have one in the middle, or you could have one there, one there, one there, one there if you want. What I normally do is I'll just have a block on the back of that, because the opening comes to about there. So I'll just have a small little block, well, you know, it don't needs to be as wide as that kind of piece, like that thickness, but that'll be chamfered. So that'll go on. Yeah, that'll go. It's not drawing it very well. So that'll go on there like that, just that bit there, and that'll get screwed down to it. And then on the other side, there'll be another one of them going that way up, fastened to the side of the wall, and then that'll hook into there and hold it in place, and that's all it is. And I'll just use a block of wood like that. So there'll just be one there, and then two on the other one as well. Drum in. Good. Job's a good one. Right, so hope that's been interesting. Or useful. Probably not interesting, just watching me sand wood for God knows how long. I'm quite pleased with the way these have come out, actually. So we'll see when they get stained up. So this will go over there now, sit there with them. We'll cut the timber for the apertures, and we'll start getting these stained up once I've run off these bits where we've done the filling. So anyway, that's it for woodworking for today. There'll probably be a part 6 for this, and then we'll probably be done. I can't imagine some stretching it out into much more. But we've got six videos out of it, so that's pretty good. And which is 6 hours of content, which is more than you get on a new Yankee workshop. So good value for money, new Yorkie workshop. I'm not a neighbour. If you like what you're seeing, like and subscribe. I probably won't be doing much more woodwork, but you never know, because it's all for sale. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. As I said, hope you enjoyed it. Job's a good one.